Welcome to Parks and Cons Con Talk, a companion podcast and video to the parksandcons.com website and YouTube channel where we discuss cons, theme parks, collecting, and other fun stuff. I'm your host, Sean, and I'm here with Carmel.
Hi there.
Parks and Cons is your on-the-spot podcast and video show, in this case, where we take you to the heart of the action of the best conventions and themed entertainment events around. Today, we are again kind of deviating from the normal format for both the podcast and the talk show, because we're kind of combining duties here as we are in the midst of all the madness of preparing for San Diego Comic-Con. So this is the last, at least planned right now, prep podcast, last prep video, last everything that we're putting together. So we'll be happy to finish up this one and have it wrapped. We've definitely put together more content for prep for Comic-Con and had more requests for prep for Comic-Con than ever before. So hopefully this all will help out. So today, different from our normal con talks where we also do an under the con and talk about different conventions and that, today we're just sticking strictly to prep. So we're totally throwing out the normal format for the con talk today. It's all about prep, and hopefully it'll help some people out that are hitting San Diego Comic-Con. So we're going to really be talking about two specific categories. One, things on the floor, specific tips for the floor, and then finishing out with just general tips for everything to do with San Diego Comic-Con, just kind of some more broad, bigger picture stuff too. So that said, starting out on the floor, before we even get to the floor, one thing we do talk about is just the WB bags. And as of this recording, and who knows, maybe as we're recording it'll be announced, we do not yet know what the WB bags will be for this year, but every year they're a little bit different. They've modified even the form of the bags to kind of make them smaller and make them a little bit more like backpacks the last few years. But if you are unhappy with your WB bag, you can let us know on social media. Find us on Twitter and tweet us if you are looking for a trade. We're going to do it a little different this year just because we got so many. As we get more followers, obviously it gets crazier. We don't want to just have a constant spewing of retweets for WB bags. So I'm going to kind of pick designated times to do maybe 5 straight minutes of retweets or things like that. So we'll definitely keep you posted, but find us on Twitter. Let us know if you don't like your WB bag, if you're looking for a trade. And in general, we oftentimes will retweet different trade option things like that if they make sense. If it's, really silly things, sometimes we get requests where it's like, tweeting something that's really easy to get for something that's really difficult to get. But for the most part, you can kind of seek us out for that.
We're people trying to take advantage and wanting to sell tickets or different things like that we're not big proponents of. We won't encourage that. But as far as fair trades, we just get overwhelmed with them. So we're going to try a little different this time. Definitely.
And so that's kind of a pre-con thing in terms of the floor. Then actually getting to the floor, because obviously the most common thing is the questions about where to line up, what time to line up. Well, first off, where to line up, we've done already videos on that, so we're not going to address that. There's even a guide to where to line up for everything over at SDCCblog.com. You can check that out. They've been tweeting that out every day or so over there as well. But the question of when to get on the floor. So first off, very important to understand the floor does open at 9 a.m. We have put together a guide just to the exhibit hall floor, so you can check that out on our YouTube channel. And we go through the map and talk about various booths and things like that. But the floor does open at 9 a.m. They will begin letting you in the convention center around 6 a.m. depending when you get in line. And there is no easy answer for when to get in line. It really depends on what your goals are and how important those goals are. If it's kind of important, like again, we've talked about it in past podcasts, past videos, the Hall H thing, it was not important to us. We're on the drive-in on Saturday watching social media at 7:30, whatever. People are saying, hey, it looks like it might be possible to get in. I don't think we would have gotten up any earlier to try it even if we knew we could, but it wasn't a goal for the day. It was just something that happened organically. Last year, Hasbro on Thursday, from what we've heard, people were basically out of luck if they got there after 4 a.m. It wasn't because the line was so bad specifically for Hasbro, it was because people jumped the line at the back of the convention center. These things are going to happen all the time, so there is no easy answer. But I will say this, one thing we talk about all the time is if you want something or want to see something or do something, whenever you think you need to be there, then add another hour onto it. So if you think that, whatever, you want to have a good spot in the Funko lottery this year and you say, well, I think I need to be there by 5 a.m. on Thursday morning, then take that 5 and deduct another hour. Obviously, you also monitor your social media and see, before you go to bed at midnight or whatever and you see everybody's already, thousands of people in line, it may say, well, maybe it's time just to head down there right then.
Or throw in the towel and just figure you're going to just pick it up on the secondary market. But yeah, as much preparation as you can do. Obviously, the more work you put into it and the more practice you put into it, the better your chances. But even then, there's no guarantees, obviously. I mean, Carrie Dixon from the SDCC unofficial blog, I think it was last year or the year before.
Year before, for Avengers.
Yeah, she really wanted one of the autographs that was being, they were giving out tickets, and she practiced, she walked the floor, she knew exactly where she needed to line up. She got there early enough. She was in the first handful of people to get onto the floor through sales pavilion, and she still didn't get it. By the time she got there, the line was capped. So as unfair as it seems and as unfair as it is, there's going to be people on the floor before the doors even open, and whatever their situation is, whether they're there legitimately or not, it's just simply is the fact that that happens. And as problematic as it is and frustrating, there's no arguing it. It just is. So as much preparation as you put into it, obviously your chances are going to be better, but you can't account for people jumping the lines. And as much as security tries, and as tough of a job as they have, they're not going to catch everybody. So it's tough, but yeah, doing the best you can is going to better your odds, but even then it's not going to be guaranteed. But at least you'll know that you did everything you could and plan for as much as you could possibly plan for in order to get whatever it is that you're trying to obtain.
And hand in hand with that, a tip we always have is basically get in line where people tell you or where you think you're supposed to line, but like double and triple check it. I mean, one thing, a lot of times we're together, so we're able to kind of, one person gets in line, one person checks it, but you want to constantly be asking, because even the rules of the game are going to change during the con. Is something that's true on Thursday morning for an exclusive for a piece of swag is not necessarily going to be the same information Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. The con is constantly evolving. Security, staff, everyone is reevaluating situations and making changes. We've talked many times about the big change with the Hasbro booth the 1 year of doing where they lined up for preview night and trying to get Hallmark stuff. We lucked into that position. So make sure to check those things, make sure that you're in good shape with that, and just have an overall plan because it does evolve.
Yeah, and besides the line jumping that seemed to happen last year with Funko, it seemed like overall the organization seemed pretty well organized in where to have people line up, and it was pretty orderly from what I remember. But this year with the new RFID system, that may throw things totally off too. So I don't think anybody, including CCI, knows exactly how that's going to work and how that's going to affect things. But again, being there as early as you are willing to put into being early to get whatever it is you're trying to get, whether it's a good seat in Hall H or if it's an exclusive, you're going to do your best, and everybody's going to be adjusting, and there's going to be tweaks, and hopefully the RFID system is a help this year and future years and isn't a hindrance. But again, no one, I don't think, knows exactly how that's going to affect anything, and we'll see. And again, social media is your friend, and if there's going to be changes or tweaks or suggestions, that's going to be your best place to get those resources, because at the con, obviously you'll ask for help, but you don't know for sure, but social media does help and at least guide you on where you should go and stuff.
All right, let's turn the page from that topic to now we're on the floor and making our way down the aisles. And one thing we always advocate is trying to visit every booth. I mean, that's a goal we set for every con we attend, and San Diego's no different, and it takes a lot longer as big as those aisles are, but we definitely try and go by every single booth, check out what they have. So one thing with that though is as you're going by these various booths that are not necessarily the exclusives, because those bigger companies, they have their price fixes and some of them will drop. We've definitely seen things. We bought a bunch of Star Wars sunglasses one year that were like $20-$30 most of the con, and all of a sudden they were like $5-10 at the closing minutes on Sunday. So sales will occur, but in particular all the other exhibitors, which as much space as the big ABCs and Hasbros of the world take up, even more space at San Diego Comic-Con are those smaller time vendors. So keep a list in your phone, wherever is easy for you. I always keep it in the phone of just aisles and different things, of things that I like but maybe don't love, or things that I think that may go on sale and dip. I mean, definitely sometimes things can go up in price. It's rare, but you see that every once in a while. But more than likely something will drop in price if it's still sitting around on Sunday, because these vendors are trying to do the best they can to cover all the costs for the con, and It's one less thing to pack up. So keep that list. Make sure to check back in on it Sunday so that you don't necessarily overpay for something that you want. The shirt, the kind of Minecraft-esque or Sims-esque San Diego Comic-Con shirt I'm wearing here was one that it's like we went and buy it. It was $20. I was like, oh, it's cool, you know, whatever. Came back by it on Sunday to check if it was still there. It was there. It was now $10, and that obviously was nice to save some money. Plus, didn't carry it around the other days previous, and it was just a good little find.
Now that being said, of course, if you come across something that you absolutely must have, buy it. Just get it, and because chances are it's not going to be there when you come back and you happen to make your way back. So if you need something, buy it. If you're debating on it, put it on the list and come back to it. But yeah, chances are if it's something that cool that you desperately need and desperately want, that might be the case for someone else, and then you don't want to be sad at the end and not be able to get it because it's gone. Of course, it can happen the opposite where you're sad because the price went down and you paid twice as much, but at least you know that you have the item, and just chalk it up to having peace of mind that you got your item and let it go in that way. But yeah.
And we've heard from vendors that sell comics at the show. That often happens with key issues of comics is they go up in price as the weekend goes along because all of a sudden people decide, you know, maybe there's some reveal about, you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need that first appearance of so-and-so. So that definitely can happen. And so it is a, you know, a balance there. But either way, being organized in the fashion and keeping that list can be helpful there. In a similar fashion, in terms of just being organized and having a plan, for those of you that did the pre-sale Maddie collector, it's a great way to go about it. Much less of a hassle. That said, it's not without hassle, and we've experienced it many different ways over the years. Now, be very careful about their hours. Keep an eye on that. They take long lunches. They're closed a couple hours in the middle of the day and all that. If you don't pick up your stuff by the close of Saturday, you are in for a real bad time because they just give your stuff away. They don't refund the money. It just goes for sale Sunday. So make sure you know all the rules about the Maddie booth. But that said, one very important thing, we always believe don't get in that line until you hear from people how the line's going. So we always tell our followers, you know, tweet us what the wait times are if you're staying in the hotel and wander by, or you decide to roll the dice yourself and get in line or whatever. Let us know, because that can be the difference between a 10-minute stop and a 2-hour plus stop. I mean, it's gotten better over the years, but it definitely can be a long wait, even though all you're doing is picking up your stuff there. So definitely keep an eye. Again, another reason why you want everyone in your party to have social media and keep an eye on Twitter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, literally, we've seen situations where Maddie has even threatened to close early because they wanted to go home early, and people were in line and had been in line for hours, and then I mean, that was just a bad situation. Right. So yeah, follow along and probably aim for the earlier side of the con to pick up your stuff, to be sure that you do get it, because things happen, obviously, and they're not very forgiving or forgiving at all in that matter if you aren't there when they say you need to be there by. So try to get there earlier. Try to make it at a time that is as short a wait as possible. I mean, for one, it's a hike to get there, and then, oh, and I guess that's another note too, is be aware of how much stuff you purchased, because we've in the past have struggled. I mean, there's been the both of us, but I literally had to stay there and stand there with all of our stuff, and Sean was taking trips back and forth from the car because we didn't really account for how much stuff we had purchased. So have a plan for that too. But really the main thing is the time that you want to put into it. You did the whole pre-order thing, you think you're set, but then it's still frustrating if you get there and it's still a 2-hour wait. So pay attention, make it as short as possible, make it as easy as possible for yourself, have a plan on getting your stuff to wherever it is you're taking it, and share the times, share your experience over there so that we can share it too, and we can all benefit from helping each other out.
And you have two choices in terms of making your way from the exhibit hall floor to go pick things up at Maddie over at the hotel. And that kind of leads into our next tip, which is keeping an eye out for fulfillment room tickets. Is those tickets that are given out at those panels, which have been less in the years past, but those fulfillment room tickets become visible. They fall on the ground, and they're easy to be picked up. Now, that said, the easier and quicker way to get over to the hotel is just use the underground corridors there with the parking garage. So you kind of have two options there as you go to pick up your Maddie stuff from the floor. Go below, a much easier way. And if just in general, as you're traveling throughout the con, if you ever want to get from Hall H to Hall A, going underground is by far the best way. There's no crowds of people, super easy to maneuver all the way, just a set of stairs back and forth. But getting those fulfillment room tickets, whether you're over at Fifth and Island, at the Bayfront, Hard Rock, on the exhibit hall floor, they can be picked up anywhere. You have a good track record of finding them over the years, even though they've become tougher to find. And a lot of times people say, well, how do you know what the ticket's for? Well, you really don't. You find the tickets, you hold on to them, and then you go to the fulfillment room. We always go at the very end of Sunday, because it's always open a couple hours after the con on Sunday. And we go and we hold up our ticket and see what panel it was for and what we won.
Now, a couple things on that topic is, one, unfortunately, the parking underneath doesn't go the entire length of the convention center, so it only cuts off part of your walk, so you still have to deal with crowds in that regard. But as far as the tickets go, you're going to come across a lot of just random raffle tickets at the booth that's handing out. So if it has Office Depot or Office Max and just the standard raffle ticket, you can hold on to them, but you're probably not getting anything for it. The tickets that are fulfillment room tickets usually have some sort of drawing or symbol on it, like a little house, or like I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah,
but
and an apple.
There's like fruit. There's different little drawings on it.
Banana.
And that makes them look pretty distinct. But in particular, last year it was incredible to see how small the fulfillment room actually was. It looked like what they had done was the room was meant to be filled with twice as many different fulfillment items, but then when we actually got there, they weren't using the whole room, and then they had basically doubled the places you could go for the same ones. And so that's how small the fulfillment options were last year. And we've talked about how we were in Hall H all of Saturday, and we got maybe 2 items out of the whole day, and that just seemed to be typical. And then it was really illustrated to us once we saw the fulfillment room and how small and how few options there were there to even go pick up your stuff. So hopefully this year will be better. I mean, it does seem like everybody's kind of going away from giving away stuff, but
I don't think that's, I think the trend of things is more focused on photo ops and experiences that can be shared via social media, and there's just less of the shirts and the cups and whatever, the posters. But there's still going to be studios that do that, and it's still worth keeping an eye out for those. And so when you see those tickets, grab them. You could always tweet a picture of it too if you're not sure at all what it is, and see, sometimes we retweet those or whatever as well, and see if anybody can figure out what it is to, again, kind of make it a community effort. In that vein, in terms of talking about how long it can take to get over to Maddie and looking for fulfillment room tickets, stuff like that, it's also really important to remember how long things like signings take, how long panels take. And what I mean is getting from somewhere, like let's say you're in the gaming area near Hall A and you want to get to Ballroom 20, or you want to get to 6, ABC or whatever. Getting around the floor takes a lot of time, just because it's a massive convention center, 1, and because it's packed with people, 2, and then 3, which will lead into our next tip, it's packed with so many people taking photos and clogging up aisles, taking pictures of cosplay and Lego displays and all these things. So do make sure to always allocate more time, just like the idea of in the morning allocating that extra time when you get in line. In the daytime, when you're trying to get to a signing, allocate yourself enough time. And I bring up the signings in particular because we found many cases where we either win a spot or we buy a spot, depending on who. And then you're like, okay, it's going to be at 1 p.m. And they say, okay, we'll get there a little early to line up. And it's like, okay, we get there at 12:30 or whatever. And it's like, okay, you're lined up. And then the talent doesn't show up for 45 minutes late. I think when we did Mark Hamill, he showed up almost like an hour and a half late for his signing. And he was awesome when he got there, and he got caught in traffic and everything. And he was super cool, and it was a good signing. But in the end, we were lined up a half hour or so early. It took 45 minutes later for him, or an hour, or whatever it was, than the actual signing time. These signings can take a huge chunk of your day. So if you have an afternoon signing, if you win a wristband for WB for something at 1, you can count that 1 might actually be more like a 12 to 4 slot or something. And you still want to plan panels, plan other fun things, but just make sure that there's nothing that's imperative, because you can miss it. And the smallest signings, even something like Mattel, where we did like a little Sergeant Slaughter signing last year, even as small of a signing as that was, there's probably like 100 people or less there. With him being a little tardy with everything else, it ended up being about an hour and a half of time. So beware of those.
And in regards to the signings and the panels, because of the logistics of having the actors be there for a panel and then rushing them to a signing, it is going to be extremely unlikely that you're going to be able to see the panel of the show that you want to see and then go immediately and get the signing from those actors. So it's up to you if you want to try, but it's going to be tough to be able to do both. So in some cases, you may, if you didn't already get a ticket and haven't made that decision, you may want to debate on whether it's more important to you to see the panel and hear all the discussions and any possible reveals, or if it's more important to you to get the autograph from them, because oftentimes you're going to have to make that decision, even though it may seem like, okay, well, the panel only goes till 1 and then the signing's at 1:30, so that's a half hour to get there. Yeah, probably not, because there's going to be people already lined up there for the autograph, and it's going to be tough to get in for anywhere in 30 minutes from one part to the other.
And more, it's not even a possibility, because most of them are more and more requiring wristbands that you have to line up for in the morning. So, you had to fight to get your, whatever, Walking Dead wristband or your, Marvel wristband or whatever in the morning, which precluded you from being able to line up for that craziness in the line. I mean, everything at Comic-Con has just gotten, it's become like an arms race where everybody lines up earlier and earlier and earlier, which makes a lot of these things mutually exclusive, where, as you said, you either have to decide, either I'm going to get this person to sign something, or I'm going to see their panel, the option not to do both. I've had several questions this year about, so Funko has moved and Hasbro is up by Hasbro. I'm like, can I go and get in the Hasbro line and then the Funko line? And the easy answer is no, or the answer is no, because it'll be too many people on each line. The line will be already capped, or, they'll just be out of tickets or wristbands or whatever at each one. It's geographically, it's going to be super close, it's just in that same little sales pavilion. But many of these things you have to pick, and that's a different tip, is just you have to kind of pick one most important thing each day, and that's your most important thing, and that's everything. And you have yourself open to a lot of other things, but they may or may not work out, and there's no guarantees with them.
Yeah, I mean, if you happen to get through and the line's still open, sure, hop in line. It may go all the way down to the marina, but you can try.
Right.
But yeah, you really just need to have one target in the morning and have your backup plans. But really, logistically, you're probably only going to get one of those tickets, unless you're doing things not fairly and jumping in line with other friends and cutting the lines. That I don't encourage, but short of doing something like that, you probably aren't going to have time to do two lines up there.
Yeah. So with that being said, talking about kind of getting around the floor and how it does get congested, is a couple tips related to photos. Because first off, highly suggest you take literally 1,000 photos over those days. I mean, take photos non-stop if you can. I mean, I'm constantly taking photos, delete them later, the ones that don't turn out. But I mean, it's the best souvenir you can get are those photos. And so don't leave with anything that you haven't gotten a photo of. That said, in terms of things like displays, like the Lego figures or Weta or Gentle Giant or Hasbro, all these places that have these awesome, cool displays to take pictures of, try to save those for closing minutes of the con each day. We always try to designate those last minutes of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday for taking photos of those displays, because those statues, those Lego displays, those robots over at the Bandai booth, whatever, they don't change. They're there, and they only look a lot better when there aren't people standing in front of them and it's not all crowded and you're not getting bumped in the walkways. It's better for the congestion of the con traffic to keep people moving, but it's also better for your photos. They just look a lot better without people standing in the way. So when you come to that kind of 10-minute warning, that's for us always, as they get to those last 15 minutes, is that's when we start kind of scurrying around and trying to get those photos. And when we look back, we've got tons of those type of displays of, Batman, Wonder Woman, all the WB booth last year, like literally everything there, we have clear photos with no one in them. Everything at the DC booth, clear photos, no one in them. Everything at the Hasbro booth, Weta, Gentle Giant, all those booths that we really loved, some of their displays, Sideshow, we've got tons of photos with no one in them because we just waited till people were starting to clear out and leave for the day. And so it helps with the traffic. You have lots of souvenirs, and it just makes life a little bit better and easier for everyone. Obviously, that can't be said, that can't work for cosplay, because you see them and then they're gone. But for the displays, they're going to be there all weekend, so there's no rush.
Yeah, definitely. And why be a person holding up traffic? I mean, there's just no need for it in the early morning hours to do that. So, and why waste your time at that point? And our minutes are precious when the floor opens. So, whether you're holding yourself up or holding other people up, just save it for a different time. Save it for later.
All right, and then our last category is just a couple general things that kind of speak for the con as a whole. I mean, opportunity cost, we've talked about here in every video. I really encourage you to check out all of our prep videos. We've got Funko, Lego, Hasbro, visual guide outside, exhibit hall floor, these talk shows, probably 10 or so of these types of things. So definitely check all those out. But as we close here with kind of our last philosophical points or whatever, first off, make sure to take care of yourself in terms of your energy level, eating, drinking, sleeping, showering, all of them utmost importance. And when people talk about that they don't sleep at all at Comic-Con, I can't wrap my brain around that. And I get it, and I know half the people, if not more, that are watching this video are gonna just think that it's ludicrous to talk about needing 6 hours of sleep every night and things like that. And we've really, over the years, had to struggle with that. I mean, last year I think was, again, the toughest year, where it's like now we have, you know, more friends or get invited to these little media parties or things, and that's really cool to do these nighttime things. But then we want to be there for, you know, the crack of dawn for exclusives and swag and all that. But we really do try to hold to getting at least 6 hours of sleep a night and being able to get to the room long enough to kind of, okay, put stuff away, get our bags set for the morning, take showers, eat breakfast on the drive-in probably in the morning, but having that. I guess for me the biggest thing is, and depending where you're staying, like we're always driving in too, so your time, you have even more time if you're at the bayfront and can just walk across the lawn. But to me the big thing is you want to be excited and still having a great time Sunday afternoon. And we see a lot of people have meltdowns over the course of the week of the con. There's a lot of stress there, and it's just, you work too hard. You've made this like probably your big vacation. For many people, this is the vacation.
You spent a lot of money to be there, whether even if you won your SDCC ticket. I mean, food and room and everything else. We all know how much we're all putting into this, and some are putting out more than others, and it's just too expensive, both time-wise and money-wise, to not enjoy yourself. So, I mean, that's why we encourage so much the taking the breaks and stepping outside the convention center and breathing and whatever, because it goes by too quick. And if you're pushing yourself so much that you're not even able to appreciate what you're doing, and you don't even remember what you did this morning because you're so tired, that just really isn't worth it. Take a break, get some sleep. Obviously, you know, if you are like us and you want to do some of the parties and you want to be on the floor, you've just got to figure that out and be prepared for that, and know that, make it a priority that enjoying yourself and being healthy during the con is a better way to go. Because I mean, I think maybe once we've ended up sick by the end of the convention.
I've never been sick at any con, like the whole con cred thing. I've never experienced that. And I'm sure, I mean, by the law of averages, I mean, at some point it will, because just go to so many cons, at some point I'm going to get sick the day after a con. But yeah, I think a lot of it is because we kind of keep our spirits high. We do a lot of different things. I mean, we take the break for lunch at Vela. We fill up 10 bags of swag. We see 15 different panels, but we try to really diversify our stuff, so we're constantly moving and doing different things, but never losing that sleep. And we've never camped down. That's experience we don't have. We can't really, you know, ever do a guide to camping for Hall H, because we've never done that. We've been to the con by 4 in the morning or things like that, but we've been out till 1 or 2 in the morning, but we've never, you know, gotten the tents out or gotten the sleeping bags out and slept out there. And I think that's part of why we've been healthy. Now that said, we've also weren't at last year's Star Wars panel or something like that, so we've used opportunities. We were in Hall H when Loki took over. We were there, you know, for you know, Ryan Reynolds, you know, Deadpool. We've been there for great moments, but I'm sure there's many more that we've missed as a result. And it's just, again, it's all opportunity cost. If it requires, like, my biggest goals right now are probably a lot of the Hasbro things, because I think this is a good year for Star Wars and Marvel Hasbro stuff there. But if that were, and so having those, you know, main goals, I mean, for me this year, Hasbro is probably the biggest goal, which last year was a little bit less so. But this year, I love the Star Wars stuff, the Marvel stuff. But that said, if it requires me destroying part of our San Diego Comic-Con to get, I just won't. I'll pick up the figures, over the next 5 years, one figure a year, paying exorbitant amounts on eBay or whatever it is, but I'm not willing to ruin the con. And so we'll keep an eye on it, but we're not going to be, in line at 2 a.m. or sleeping out on the pavement, just because I think it's going to make I'm going to feel groggy. I'm not going to feel in a good mood, and so enjoy it. So again, everybody's different. Some people require more sleep. Some people I require a lot of breaks. I've had 8 different little microsurgeries on my feet. I've got all sorts of steel and bolts in my feet. I need lots of breaks. Other people, maybe not so much. I'm fine doing 30,000 steps a day as long as I can take 15 breaks within that. But for you, you just have to decide for yourself. You know what makes you cranky. You know what makes you tired. You know what can run your immune system down. Just make sure to take good care of yourself. So not only do you have an awesome time at the con from the second you get there to the second you leave, but you also have that next week where you can kind of bask in the glow of fun that you had throughout the convention.
Yeah, and you really need to be alert and on your feet while you're at Comic-Con, because things change so rapidly, and if you're tired and can't process all the changes that are going on, or that you can't process that, oh wait, if I wait on going to the floor, I actually have a chance right now of getting into ballroom 20 or whatever, you're going to lose out on a lot if you're not alert and on your feet and able to pivot when the opportunities or the unopportunities arise where things that you plan don't work out. But having that sleep, having that rest, having the energy, having the food, you're going to enjoy yourself more, because you're going to be able to take in more and process more, and just be alert in general. I mean, even a task of simply walking down one of the aisles on the exhibit floor, if you're awake, you can pivot and you move and you get through the aisle pretty quickly and you get you to where you need to go. When you're tired, you're slower, you're sluggish, you're causing a hindrance because you're not moving as quickly, you're being frustrated because you're being bumped by people and people are trying to get around you, and it's just not fun. But yeah, really, really try to enjoy the entire time that you're down there, because it's less than 1 week out of your entire year, and it's, for a lot of us, it's a highlight of the year, and it should be a highlight because you are putting so much effort to be there. And people who don't go to Comic-Con can't appreciate all the work that you put into actually being there. But because you're doing it, and it does take work and effort and money and everything else. So just enjoy yourself and make the most out of it, and enjoy it, and enjoy being amongst your peers out there who also love the same things, and make friends. But you can't do these things if you're cranky and you're being kind of witchy in the afternoon because you're tired. So yeah, just take care of yourselves and enjoy yourselves and have fun.
Which really fits very well with what is, for the most part, our last tip. There's one that kind of will segue into our calendar that also is kind of a tip. But lastly, and it's funny how many comments I always get on this one, because it's such a simple one, but people are like, yes, that's the one, is just be nice. Just be nice people. It sounds so silly to even say. It's, we don't talk in these tip podcasts about, wearing comfortable shoes, because that just seems so like, duh, of course wear comfortable shoes. But this one, I don't think does become common sense a lot of times. And we do talk about it, or I talk about it in some of the, like the video on the swag and the video on Hasbro and stuff, but which is just this. San Diego Comic-Con is a thing that comes together all of a sudden for this 1 week. Pretty much no one that's working there, really no one that's working there are working booths all the time. And so the people that are handing out swag, exclusives, these are things that they're doing for a few days there. Maybe they do them at a few conventions a year, but no one there is trying to prohibit anyone from having a good time. No one's trying to be a stickler for rules. It's very simple psychology, as everybody, like most people in life, are trying to do their job and not get yelled at. And so you want to help them do their job and not get yelled at. And so I always am trying to figure out, asking the booth employees what the rules are. Are you allowed multiple times to get something? Not allowed multiple times to get something? Where do you line up? And just always please and thank you. Please and thank you. And when people see on social media all these bags of swag, and they're always like, well, how do you, a lot of it's just from being nice and asking questions, and people reciprocating that and helping you to get to the right place and rewarding you for being nice. And so, think about that. Think of ways as you're going through the con, you want to have a great time, but how can you make other people's convention a great time as well, including the employees who are volunteers included in that, CCI staff, all of them that are busting their butts. It's such a hard, we have lots of friends that are exhibitors at the show, and it's really, really a tough time. And it's not just, the show doesn't start by Wednesday. They're dead tired by Wednesday. They've been working since long before Monday, really, weeks ahead of time, putting everything together. So be nice, and that kind of energy, if you want to call it that, probably will come back to you and reward you as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be a lot of tough moments, especially in the mornings, and when you're trying to get somewhere, where it is going to be tough to say excuse me, or to not want to shove your way through or run around someone. But everybody's trying to enjoy themselves. Everybody's trying to, the staff and people are trying to do their jobs, and we're all just trying to enjoy ourselves. So maybe if you know that you're trying to do Hasbro preview night is going to not make you a happy person and is going to make you be a mean person, probably don't do it. And Hasbro in particular, the one year we tried to do a preview night, I almost didn't want to come back on Thursday or even go back onto the floor, because it was such a tough situation at the time. And at the time we still didn't know all the background stuff and didn't know how things worked with vendors and stuff. And but that was a tough time. And of course I came back and I was fine. But just avoid those situations if you know that it's going to be tough for you, and it's really just not worth it. But yeah, be nice to each other, to the staff, everyone. Just be nice.
Which, and this all segues then to the very last tip that's not really as important as the last tip we gave, but does fit well with the calendar, which is just a good way to kind of get over the con blues of San Diego Comic-Con being over, because there's always a hangover effect for cons that people are really passionate about, whether it's a Gallifrey 1 or San Diego Comic-Con or Anime Expo. And the thing that helped us in a lot of ways, the way Parks and Cons was built, was just me having those blues, is planning your next convention. And that's really our specialty, so you can follow along with us. If you're looking for conventions anywhere in the Nevada, Arizona, California area, we go to a lot of them. So if this is the first time checking in with us, we go to over 50 conventions a year, so we're always planning them. And with that, we don't usually do our calendar on the talk show here, but we do it always on the podcast. So we're going to end though with the calendar, because it fits well with kind of this last tip of like planning that next con. Or for us, one of the nice things about parks is parks are kind of, in their own way, they have those kind of immersive experiences every day. So they almost have that kind of convention feel. So next up on the calendar for us, as we're recording this, not sure exactly when we're posting this video, because we've got a lot of stuff that's going to be posting in the lead up to San Diego Comic-Con, but July 16th, Disney Animania in Anaheim. It's a celebration of all things Disney. Last year, the 60th anniversary, a big year for Disney Animania. This year, the 61st, which actually fits into the next day, July 17th, is Disneyland's birthday. So we'll be at both of those. Also, Pop Expo, a new little mini con out in Pomona, is starting up. It is on July 17th. You can find links to all this stuff that I'm going over on our homepage of our website, parksandcons.com. We always keep a calendar there. So if you're ever looking for your con or park fix, if that's your thing, you can always check out various things there. Midsummer Scream, San Diego Comic-Con, of course, what we're talking about, July 20th through the 24th. Midsummer Scream, a new Halloween convention at the Long Beach Convention Center, celebrating all things haunt, July 30th and 31st. Super Toy Con, August 5th through the 7th in Las Vegas. Power Morphicon, August 12th through the 13th for you Power Ranger fans in Pasadena. All-American Collectors Show, Toy Antique Show, August 19th and the 20th in LA. Disneyland Half Marathon Weekend and Expo, September 1st through the 4th. Gateway Strategicon, it's gaming nonstop 24 hours a day from September 2nd to September 5th. And then as we get into, we're going to mix in some of the haunts coming right around the corner. Six Flags kicks off their Fright Fest, September 17th. Same weekend, we've got Long Beach Comic-Con, a great convention, especially for comic fans, September 17th and 18th. Not Scary Farm opens September 22nd, and Dark Harbor has their opening night, or maybe it's just their media night, but September 29th, end of September. We do lots of haunt stuff. If you've not followed along with us before, you can see we did 43 or something last year, so we cover a lot of haunt stuff as well. Please help support us by using our Amazon link on our homepage. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it definitely helps us out. Please leave reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. It also helps people to find us. And then for YouTube, please subscribe. It definitely helps us grow the audience. Anyone that you know that might be interested in a convention or a park, and not necessarily even San Diego Comic-Con, please let them know about us and what we do, to have them check out our stuff. And you can always find us on social media at Parks and Cons, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Periscope. All right, wrapping up for our last San Diego Comic-Con prep podcast and video. Until next time, we'll see you in line at San Diego Comic-Con.